Welcome to another edition of the Trump Tyranny Tracker. It's Tuesday. Hope you all had a great Labor Day weekend. Olga Lautman is here. You had a great weekend as well, Olga.
I got fully caught up. This has been the most productive weekend. I was writing. I didn't stop, and I'm fully caught up and up to date with everything. So, yes, it was the best. How was
You know,
your
these long
weekend?
weekends are meant to be for taking time off and being away from work, not indulging in work, but I guess you're not quite wired that way.
No. And unfortunately, um, these long weekends are the opportunity to actually be able to catch up and put your phone away and like just focus on work.
Well, I'm glad you got caught up, and we have a big show today with lots of news stories, so we'll get right to them. We'll begin by the way, 2:25 is the day, if you're wondering, of the Trump administration. We're looking at developments all of the last 24 hours in authoritarian creep. And the biggest story of the day, which really happened on Friday, but it's a big story. Trump has invoked a rarely used pocket rescission to claw back nearly $5 billion in foreign aid already approved by Congress, targeting State Department and USAID programs. Even Republican Senator Susan Collins, who is warning this violates um, Congress's constitutional power of the purse, a direct challenge to the separation of powers that are fundamental to our democracy. And of course, she says they're actually breaking the law. So the president could be breaking the law as he's trying to cut $5 billion out of these budgets.
Yeah, so Susan Collins, I'm sure, is extremely deeply concerned, as
She's always
always.
deeply
Uh,
concerned
he's
and then never
very
does
deeply
anything.
Yeah, I'm very deeply concerned. But no, on a more serious note, the fact that I hear you have Trump now, who just basically is going against Congress, taking away their duties, and himself revoking this aid, which he can't do on his own. It's unconstitutional. It is illegal. She is right. We'll see what she does about it. But that goes to the bigger point that he is ruling like a dictator and sees Congress nothing more than a rubber stamp. And in the case if he can't get Congress to do something, he just, waved them away and does it himself.
So the House is going to be back in session. The Congress is back tomorrow. They'll be having the Epstein files, and I should have mentioned we'll be bringing this up. But the Epstein victims are having their first Democrat organized event at 10:30 tomorrow morning. And I just want to let everyone know that we'll be covering that live on narrative.org. But I just want to get your thoughts about how that's going to fit into this start of the session. They thought that by going away for a few weeks, the Epstein story would disappear, but it really hasn't.
It is not going to disappear because the victims are also, I mean, they're speaking out you know, for everything the Department of Justice has done to go visit a monster sex trafficker who, facilitated the rape of over 1,000 kids. Um, and then move her to Club Med, where she had yoga and Pilates and, other, how you call it, perks, no one spoke to the victims. And finally, the victims are going to have a voice because what is happening? I mean, this is them being re traumatized again as the Department of Justice and Congress, Republicans in Congress, and Trump try to basically whitewash what happened in
Yeah,
order to defend themselves, to defend Trump.
tomorrow will give them an opportunity to really respond to what Ghislaine Maxwell said in that interview with Todd Blanche. So it'll be really interesting to see what they say. Our second story today is, I think I skipped one here, the Trump administration is preparing to deploy 600 military JAG officers as temporary immigration judges to accelerate deportations. The DOJ has already loosened requirements so any lawyer can serve as a judge, meaning these military attorneys with zero immigration law training could be deciding asylum cases within weeks. Wow, what a development.
Yeah, and again, we see Trump using the military and integrating it into American lives. I mean, this is absolutely, we should not have military running around our streets. We should not have, JAG officers serving as judges. This is all unacceptable, and we really need to push back against this police state that is happening because Trump is what he's doing is conditioning Americans to accept this.
Mm.
None of this is normal. If this had happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 4 years ago, we've had crime, we've had peaks and, of crime throughout decades. We've never had military in the streets. And the fact that he is manufacturing emergencies and integrating military in every aspect
Mm.
of everyone's life. I mean, this is something, we really need to push back because I don't think Americans want, our Gvardia, which is Russia's, forces running around the US and right now they're dealing with quote unquote crime or quote unquote immigrants, then it's going to be protesters and anyone who speaks out against the regime.
Right, that's really becomes the problem is when this becomes military tribunals or military courts, they're determining whether protesters get to be living in America or get to be sent to concentration camps. That's really what we're staring at down the line. The third story on the Trump tyranny tracker today involves troubling signs of information suppression. So Chuck Borges, I think I'm saying his name correctly, the Social Security Administration's chief data officer, resigned after filing a whistleblower complaint about unauthorized Doge operatives mishandling sensitive SSA data. Within 30 minutes, his resignation email mysteriously disappeared from all employee inboxes, raising immediate suspicion of deliberate suppression. This is an interesting development. What's going on here?
Well, he came forward basically saying, and for every American on this watching this, um, your social security and all sensitive data was uploaded to an unsecure server, cloud server, by Doge operatives through an unauthorized Doge agency. It's a non-existent agency. So he came forward to alert people that this information, everyone, I mean, this is every American who has a social security or is in the database, all their data has been uploaded to this cloud server. He came with a whistleblower complaint. And as a result, I mean, after being harassed and intimidated and everything, his resignation letter disappeared. So it just shows you, I mean, not only are these unauthorized operatives, Musk operatives. I mean, we don't know who they work for. We know Big Balls has ties to Russia. We know several actually had ties to Russia.
Mhm.
Not only did these people gain access to all our data, but they're trying to silence anyone and now covering up the fact that our data was moved to a cloud server that is unstable, and God knows who else was on this cloud server. I mean, the whole thing is outrageous.
So his resignation letter with some of the details was sent around to the entire staff. And they've deleted it since. So deleted also
Yeah.
all this evidence that he had about how this Social Security Administration data had been lifted into this cloud. So
Wow. Hopefully he made a copy, I'm
no,
sure.
no,
If he
I mean,
found
deleted for the readers,
Yeah.
not for everybody else.
Yeah.
No, I'm
Yep.
sure the
Yep.
whistleblowers still have it and he has it. But I'm talking about the actual staff of the SSA would not be aware of it if they weren't paying attention
Yep.
to the news. Finally,
Yep.
today, Venezuelan President Maduro is vowing to declare a republic in arms if the United States forces attack, claiming American warships with 1,200 missiles pose the greatest threat in a century. Trump has significantly expanded our naval presence in the Caribbean, ostensibly to target drug cartels with destroyers, cruisers, and assault ships carrying thousands of Marines now positioned off Venezuela's coast. Are you are you serious that an attack on Venezuela is likely or
Yeah, so
possible?
I actually have been, doing the tracker, and every day for the past few weeks or every few days, there's a Venezuela story. And I mean, look, I am not a military person by any means, although I did work on military stuff with Ukraine. But first it was a few ships, now it's nine US ships and submarines. And I mean, every kind of class of
Mm.
ship that you could think of who is in the Caribbean. Call me stupid, but it doesn't look like we're going after drug cartels. And I am dumbfounded that the media is completely
Mhm.
ignoring such a buildup and the fact that we might actually be preparing for a war operations inside of Venezuela,
And
whatever it is.
Mexico.
Yeah, Maduro, for he got the memo because a week and a half ago I documented that, from seeing these ships coming in, he sent 15,000 soldiers to the border. And now he came out with this statement over the weekend. So, I mean, this is another one of those things I scratch my head. And I even asked on Substack last week, early in the week, like, are we going to war with Venezuela? And this is where it's going. I mean, luckily, Trump moved away from Ukraine. So I'm happy with that part. At least he he moved along
Yeah,
to his next disaster
I
that
see what
he's
you mean.
creating.
But it does feel like they're going to be attacking some cartel installations. I don't know what you'd call them in Mexico. That certainly is under planning right now. Venezuela is another possibility. You were talking about a major, imperialistic kind of approach down south. Now, many people would argue that maybe a war is a really good thing for a president in the middle of a really disastrous first term, where he's having a very very difficult time with the approval ratings. Wars tend to work quite well in terms of increasing support.
Well, I mean, if he wants to go to war anywhere, look at Russia. I mean, they literally, what I would call, I just posted an article this morning on it. Literally over the weekend, what I would call attempted to assassinate the top EU chief, the EU commissioner, by jamming her plane, the GPS on her plane. They hit
I'm sorry, I didn't get that story. Can you just tell me again what that was?
Oh my God, exactly. And this is the problem with our
Yeah,
press.
yeah,
Then it's like not a news story. So, what's her name? Von der Leyen was flying into Bulgaria,
yeah.
and her plane, got hit with GPS jamming, disabling the equipment on the plane. So they had to use paper maps, old school way, to land into Bulgaria. And it was Russia who did it. They've been doing this for 2 years now. I mean, literally, as I wrote in the article this morning, 4 out of 5 planes flying in Estonian airspace are targeted with these jammings because Russia is running operations both from Russia and from their enclave Kaliningrad. So yesterday, I mean, to me, this looks like an assassination. You have
Hmm.
Putin in China sucking up to Xi. His new owner, and then you have at the same time this attack on a plane carrying the top EU commissioner. This is incredible. And the fact that it's not, barely a news story, um, uh, you know, is even more troubling. At the same time, Russia last week hit the British consulate and EU consulates in Western Ukraine, hit a Western factory, injuring Americans in Ukraine. So I mean, if we want to go, I have no love for Maduro, frankly. That's another Kremlin pawn. You know, maybe he'll end up with the rest of the collectibles in Russia with Yanukovych and Assad and the rest of them, the garbage they collect after their regime fails. But the point is that I think if we are about to go to war, I mean, our media should be covering and preparing Americans, that we have 4,000, I believe, now military stationed in off the coast of Venezuela. I
Seems like a
mean,
big story.
this
Seems
is
like a big
not for
story.
cartoons. Call me stupid, but I don't think this is how
Well, they've
you
also
go after cartels.
demilitarized, or sorry, militarized the whole southern border recently. So you've got all this additional, I think it's 12,000 troops along the southern border that have been surged into there. So, together there could be as many as 16,000 all ready to deploy into South America and Central America. That is, unbelievable when you think about it, and no one's covering it on the news at all. But that's why we're here,
Um,
I guess.
Yeah, this is not my region. I only look at Venezuela when Russia's involved, which is, frequently.
Yeah.
But whenever they have operations running, or one time Maduro during last protest several years ago, was nervous about, staying in power, and Russian jets flew in and took out Maduro's, the central bank gold, and then flew it. They attempted to mask the route, to take the central his gold from his central bank to Moscow to hold for storage. They attempted to mass the route, didn't do such a good idea, and everyone could see where their
But they did
security
take it, didn't
service
they?
going.
Did they take the gold?
Yeah, they took
Yeah,
it.
they
Yeah,
took it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they took it. So whenever Russia's involved, which is frequently, like I said, anytime there are protests, they send Russian FSB agents, officials to help, quash the protest and whatnot. But I don't know, as far as what was happening with us. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, this does not look like a drug cartel operation. You don't need submarines and, 9 ships and amphibious assault ships. And I mean, these are this is serious weaponry. And the fact that you turn on CNN or MSNBC or any other outlet, and you don't see this is
Hmm.
like mind blowing, along with the fact that, von der Leyen was a target. Like I said, for
Yeah,
me, this is an assassination attempt. If her plane would have gone down, you know, that would have been
really.
immediate war.
Yeah. Look, it's really astonishing to me that the news is the way it is anyhow. I mean, there's so many stories that just don't make it onto the news. And the stories that do are also carefully covered in a way that just, pretends that this administration is running legitimate, policy on a legitimate administration. And they're not. Everything they're doing is outside. A lot of what they're doing is outside of the law. And yet they continue to be treated with this kind of the kid gloves that you can't believe. We have a little bit of time. It's just one question. What did you make of the
And
whole?
and wait, and someone just mentioned Eric Prince. There's another story that Eric Prince
Yeah.
is, well, Trump, I guess, is considering to send his mercenary group to Ukraine as part of guarantees. And I'm like,
Oh,
keep keep the war criminal out of Ukraine, please. We
didn't
don't
they do
need
that in Iraq and it
that.
didn't end so well? I mean, this is
No,
not
we
a good
don't need
idea.
Eric Prince, please. Keep him, send him anywhere else, and just
That's their
not
solution.
to
Oh my gosh.
Ukraine, please. But go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask you about the Trump illness. There's speculation all the time about his health. This is all just what do you make of it? I'd like to hear your view.
I am trained after Russia. If I could tell you in Russia, I actually had to write an article from all the Western media outlets who actually did find some stupidity to focus on a few years ago and said that Putin was on his deathbed. And I actually am trained just from, how things work in Russia. Putin has been dying since 2001. I mean, literally, since he came to power, they've already given him everything. Parkinson's, stage 5 cancers, all kind of cancers, leprosy. I mean, you name it, he's had it.
Yeah,
And the motherfucker is still kicking and still a war criminal and still killing people and still
yeah,
assassinating people and whatever. So when it comes to Trump's health, I frankly don't delve into these things because, w- whatever is happening, we need to deal with it, with the underlying things. Trump is the carrier of this. But even if Trump, does drop dead or is sick, I mean, this is not going away.
no,
None of this is going away until we push back against this and say, this is not the America we want. We don't want military in our streets. We don't want mass thugs running around and whatnot. So when it comes to these kind of illness, every time I hopped um, Twitter this week and I saw, Trump is dying, he's dead. People are celebrating coffin memes of him. And I'm like, oh God, this feels exactly what happened in Russia.
yeah.
But with Russia, it's the security services who put this out, this information out in order to kind of pacify people not to rise up because they feel, people are like, oh, well, he's going to die anyway. So, let time take care of it.
I agree with you completely on that. I think this is performative more than anything else, and we'll see what happens. But I mean, I don't see. the signals aren't there that there's something real here. I mean, he's obviously not well because he's an old guy, but there's just not necessarily
It
something
wa
imminent happening.
He's well enough to
Yeah,
have an invasion of DC.
yeah,
He's well enough to be planning an invasion into Chicago this week. He's well enough to be opening internment camps around the country, to illegally disappear people off the streets, American, not American. It's like grab first, ask questions later. So for me, and if he dies, we have Vance, which again, he's not as serious to me of a threat. But bottom line is, this is not how we correct the course of the
no,
country.
no,
We have to tackle the underlying issues because the machinery is still there to push these military deployments, to, push these disappearances of people across the country. And for all the other human rights violations are happening in internment camps across the country. I mean, the underlying factors are not going to go into a coffin with them. So we need to
absolutely.
address that to focus. So I focus on that stuff.
And context is important. The Epstein story is still ongoing. Tomorrow, the victims will be on Capitol Hill. He certainly wants a sympathetic view in the public. So, if he's creating a narrative around his being not well, it may have something to do with that as well.
I wrote, like I said, a few years ago. I couldn't believe I had to waste my time writing this shit. But for SIPA, the think tank that I'm connected with, the many deaths of Vladimir Putin, and literally before every single invasion, he was on his deathbed.
Right.
Before Crimea, he had stage 4
But that's
cancer,
interesting.
weeks to live. Before the 2022 full-scale invasion, he was immediately dying. After Joe Biden won, um, Russian security services put out a rumor, because, Russia didn't want to deal with the wrath that was coming towards them, that their puppets no longer in office, put out a rumor that Putin is so sick, he's not going to run anywhere. Let me tell you, Putin's going to outlive all of us. I mean, evil does not die. Look at Kissinger at 100 something, schlepping back and forth.
That is the Trump tourney tracker for today. It's September the 2nd, and this was day 224 in the administration we were reviewing today. Olga Loutwood from TrumpTourneyTracker.substack.com and from UnmaskingRussia.substack.com. Is there anything you want to promote before we go away today?
For you to get a sticker.
A label. Yes, for narrative.org, NARATIV. I'll just spell it one more time. I've got the label maker here. I just haven't quite figured it out. I've been trying. This is my label maker, but I can't seem to get the right graphic onto this. So maybe someone can explain that to me, and then I'll print it for tomorrow. I've got the latest.
And
Oh,
the
sorry.
only thing that I would say is we dropped. Oh, that Julie Roginski and I dropped our latest installment chapter of our article on how Russia infiltrated right-wing media and Fox News, like pretty much 8 years prior to the 2016 election. So just that we just released
Oh, that's
our
really
new
interesting.
episode yesterday on it, and it's definitely well worth the read because we are showing from 2008 how Russia went every way. Last week it was the Nazis and white supremacists, the week before evangelicals, the NRA, and this week the far right media and Fox News.
This is on Unmasking Russia is where people can read that series, right? Unmaskingrussia.substack.com. And on narrative.org, you can check out the latest episode or chapter of The Greatest Heist will be out later today. It's really a good one. It deals with the bankruptcy of Donald Trump in 1996, the mysterious $450 million that showed up out of nowhere to get him out of bankruptcy. We'll explain where we think that money came from in the latest chapter. And that's all for us today. We'll be back tomorrow at 2:00. See you then, Olga.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.